What would you sacrifice for freedom? In 480 BC, 300 Spartan warriors answered this question, facing an overwhelming Persian invasion force. Their stand at Thermopylae has inspired generations. But what's the real story? We'll uncover the truth behind the legend. We'll explore the society that forged these warriors and the storm that led to their fateful encounter. By journey's end, you'll understand how the spirit of Thermopylae shapes our world today. Are you ready to discover what it truly means to stand against impossible odds? The origins of Sparta. To understand the 300, we must first understand Sparta itself. Our story begins not with a battle, but with a society unlike any other in the ancient world. Legend has it that Sparta was founded by Lacedaemon, son of Zeus and the nymph Taygete. He named the city after his wife, Sparta. But beyond myth, archaeological evidence suggests that Sparta emerged as a significant power in the 10th century BC. What set Sparta apart was its unique social structure and unwavering focus on military excellence. At the heart of this was the agoge, Sparta's infamous education and training system. From the age of 7, Spartan boys were taken from their families and subjected to a grueling regimen designed to create the perfect warrior. The agoge was brutal. Young boys were underfed, encouraged to steal food to survive, and subjected to harsh physical training. They learned to endure pain without complaint, to obey without question, and to prize honor above all else. This system produced warriors of unparalleled discipline and skill, but at a great cost to individual freedom and cultural development. Sparta's government was equally unique. Unlike the democracy of Athens, Sparta was ruled by 2 hereditary kings, advised by a council of elders known as the Gerousia. The day-to-day running of the state was handled by 5 elected ephors, who held significant power. But perhaps most surprising to outsiders was the role of women in Spartan society. While still subject to the patriarchal norms of the ancient world, Spartan women enjoyed freedoms unheard of in other Greek city-states. They could own property, receive an education, and were encouraged to be physically fit. The famous saying that Spartan women were the only ones who gave birth to real men speaks to their respected status. This was the crucible that forged the 300, a society dedicated to creating the perfect warrior, where individual lives were subordinated to the needs of the state. But this hyper-militarized society came at a cost. Sparta's focus on military excellence left little room for the arts, philosophy, or technological advancement. While Athens was building the Parthenon and nurturing minds like Socrates, Sparta remained culturally stagnant. As we move forward in our story, remember this: the 300 were not just brave individuals, but products of a society that valued military prowess above all else. Their stand at Thermopylae was the culmination of centuries of cultural evolution, a test of whether Sparta's singular focus on creating the perfect warrior would be enough to stand against the might of an empire. As we delve deeper into this epic struggle, we will meet great characters, witness revolutionary battle tactics, and see how the fortunes of war can change in the most unexpected events. Before we continue, please consider liking, comment, and make a donation if you can and are interested. Your support helps us bring more of these historical tales to life. Now, let's continue. The Persian invasion and the build-up to Thermopylae. As Sparta honed its warriors, a storm was brewing to the east. The Persian Empire, under the rule of Darius the Phirk, had been expanding its territories, pushing ever westward. In 499 BC, Greek cities in Ionia, modern-day Turkey, rebelled against Persian rule. Athens, along with other Greek city-states, sent aid to their Ionian brethren. This seemingly minor conflict set the stage for a clash of civilizations. Darius, enraged by the Greek interference, vowed to punish Athens and extend his empire into mainland Greece. In 490 BC, he launched the first Persian invasion of Greece. The invasion culminated in the Battle of Marathon, where the Athenians, against all odds, defeated the Persian force. Sparta, having promised aid, arrived too late due to a religious festival. This victory, while monumental, was just the opening act of a much larger drama. Darius died before he could launch a second invasion, but his son Xerxes was determined to succeed where his father had failed. For years, Xerxes prepared, gathering an army of unprecedented size from all corners of his vast empire. In Greece, the news of Xerxes' preparations caused great alarm. In 481 BC, representatives from various Greek city-states met at the Isthmus of Corinth to form an alliance against the Persian threat. Despite centuries of infighting, the Greeks understood that they faced an existential threat that required unity. Sparta, with its fearsome military reputation, was chosen to lead the Greek alliance. This was a natural choice given Sparta's military prowess, but it also placed an enormous burden on the city-state. The Spartans would be expected to live up to their reputation as Greece's premier warriors. As Xerxes' massive army began its march towards Greece in 480 BC, the Greeks faced a crucial decision. Where should they make their stand? The answer came in the form of a narrow coastal pass in central Greece, Thermopylae. Thermopylae, meaning hot gates, due to the presence of hot springs, was a strategic choke point. The narrow pass between the mountains and the sea could negate the Persians' overwhelming numerical advantage. It was here that the Greeks decided to meet the Persian invasion. The Greek force at Thermopylae was led by the Spartan king Leonidas the Fee. The famous 300 Spartans were actually his personal guard, accompanied by several thousand allies from other Greek city-states. Their mission was to delay the Persian advance, buying time for the rest of Greece to mobilize and for the Greek navy to engage the Persian fleet. As Xerxes' army approached Thermopylae, the stage was set for one of history's most famous last stands. The 300 Spartans, products of centuries of militant culture, faced the test they had been preparing for their entire lives. The outcome of this battle would determine the fate of Greece and the course of Western civilization. The Battle of Thermopylae: Strategy, Tactics, and Key Events. As dawn broke on the first day of battle, the Greeks faced an intimidating sight. Xerxes' army, stretching as far as the eye could see, was preparing to advance. While ancient sources claim the Persian force numbered over 1 million men, modern historians estimate it was closer to 100,000, 150,000. Still a massive army for the time. Leonidas positioned his forces to take maximum advantage of the narrow pass. The Spartans, with their superior training and equipment, formed the vanguard. Their large hoplon shields and long spears were perfectly suited for the close-quarters combat that the terrain dictated. The first 2 days of battle were a triumph of Greek tactics and Spartan prowess. Wave after wave of Persian troops, including the elite immortals, broke against the Greek phalanx. The narrow pass negated the Persians' numerical advantage, allowing the Greeks to hold their ground with minimal casualties. Xerxes, watching from a nearby hilltop, was said to have leaped from his throne 3 times in agitation as he watched his troops fail to break the Greek line. The Persian king, used to easy victories, was facing the reality that his massive army could be thwarted by a much smaller but highly disciplined force. However, the tide of battle turned due to an act of betrayal. A Greek named Ephialtes, seeking reward from the Persians, revealed to Xerxes the existence of a mountain path that could be used to outflank the Greek position. This was the turning point of the battle. Learning of the Persian flanking maneuver, Leonidas made a fateful decision. He dismissed the majority of the Greek army, retaining only his 300 Spartans, along with 700 Thespians who volunteered to stay, and 400 Thebans. Their mission was now a suicide task: to delay the Persian advance as long as possible, buying time for the retreating Greeks and the all-important naval battle at Artemisium. The final stand of the Spartans and their allies on the 3rd day has become the stuff of legend. Knowing death was certain, they fought with unparalleled ferocity. They abandoned the defensive tactics of the previous days instead advancing into the wider part of the pass to maximize Persian casualties. Leonidas himself fell in this last desperate attack. The remaining Spartans fought to retrieve his body, demonstrating their unyielding commitment to their fallen king. As their spears broke, they fought with swords, then hands and teeth. In the end, the Persians had to resort to missile fire to finally overcome the Greek rearguard. When the dust settled, Xerxes' path to southern Greece lay open, but at a terrible cost. The Persians had suffered thousands of casualties, including 2 of Xerxes' own brothers. More importantly, the battle had delayed the Persian advance, giving the Greek city-states crucial time to prepare their defenses. The Battle of Thermopylae was more than just a military engagement. It was a clash of cultures and ideologies. On one side stood the vast Persian Empire, representing absolute monarchy and submission to the divine king. On the other, the Greeks fought for their independence and their unique way of life. The Spartans, in particular, embodied the Greek ideal of freedom, even if their society was, paradoxically, one of the most regimented in the ancient world. In the annals of military history, Thermopylae stands as a testament to the power of training, discipline, and tactical acumen in the face of overwhelming odds. It demonstrates how terrain can be used to negate numerical superiority, and how a small force of elite troops can have an impact far beyond their numbers. But perhaps most importantly, Thermopylae shows the power of sacrifice in service of a greater cause. The 300 Spartans and their allies knew they were going to their deaths, yet they stood firm. Their sacrifice would inspire Greece to ultimate victory and would echo through history for millennia to come. The aftermath and impact of the battle. In the immediate aftermath of Thermopylae, the situation looked bleak for the Greeks. The Persian army poured into central Greece, sacking cities as they advanced. Athens itself was evacuated and then burned to the ground. To many it must have seemed that Leonidas and his men had died in vain. However, the delay caused by the stand at Thermopylae proved crucial. It allowed the Greek fleet to retreat in good order from Artemisium, setting the stage for the decisive naval battle of Salamis. Here, the Greeks were able to lure the Persian fleet into narrow straits where their numbers worked against them. The resulting Greek victory was decisive, cutting off the Persian army's supply lines and forcing Xerxes to retreat to Asia with much of his force. The following year, the remaining Persian army was decisively defeated at the Battle of Plataea, effectively ending the invasion. Greece had preserved its independence, and the course of Western civilization was forever altered. But the impact of Thermopylae went far beyond its strategic implications. The battle quickly took on legendary status among the Greeks. Simonides' famous epitaph for the fallen Spartans, "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie," encapsulated the Greek ideal of sacrifice for the greater good. The battle also had a profound impact on Sparta itself. While the loss of 300 of its finest warriors was a significant blow, the prestige gained from their sacrifice enhanced Sparta's position in the Greek world. For decades to come, Sparta would be regarded as the preeminent military power in Greece. In a broader sense, Thermopylae became a cultural touchstone for the entire Western world. It represented the triumph of free men over tyranny, of quality over quantity, of devotion to duty over self-preservation. These themes would resonate throughout history, inspiring countless acts of courage and sacrifice. Unraveling the legend. The truth behind the 300 Spartans. The tale of the 300 Spartans has captivated imaginations for millennia, growing more elaborate with each retelling. But as with many legends, the line between fact and fiction has blurred over time. Let's peel back the layers of myth to reveal the equally fascinating reality of Thermopylae. Our story begins not with 300 men, but with thousands. While Leonidas and his elite Spartan guard form the heart of the legend, they were far from alone. The initial Greek force numbered around 7,000, including hoplites from various city-states, each bringing their own strengths to the alliance. Even in those final desperate hours, The Spartans fought alongside 700 Thespians and 400 Thebans who chose to remain, their sacrifice often overshadowed by the fame of the 300. The Persian army, too, has been subject to exaggeration. Ancient chroniclers like Herodotus spoke of millions, painting a picture of an unstoppable human tide. While undoubtedly massive, modern historians estimate Xerxes' force at a more realistic 100,000 to 150,000 men. This was still an overwhelming number, but not the impossible odds often portrayed. Popular culture has often depicted the Spartans as fighting nearly naked, their chiseled bodies gleaming in the sun. The reality was far more practical. These were professional soldiers, well-equipped for battle. They fought in bronze armor, with breastplates protecting their torsos, greaves shielding their shins, and their iconic Corinthian helmets covering all but their eyes. Their primary defense was the large hoplon shield, used in the tight phalanx formation that made Greek armies so formidable. The image of Spartans as invincible super soldiers, while rooted in their undeniable skill and discipline, overlooks their humanity. They were exceptional warriors, products of a society built around martial prowess, but they were men, not demigods. They could be wounded, they could tire, and, as Thermopylae proved, they could die. Their true strength lay not in mythical powers, but in their rigorous training, iron discipline, and unwavering unity in battle. Leonidas, the Spartan king who led the 300, is often portrayed as knowingly leading his men to certain death from the outset. The truth is more nuanced. While the danger of the mission was clear, the initial plan was to hold the pass until reinforcements arrived. It was only after the betrayal by Ephialtes, revealing the mountain path to the Persians, that the mission became a certain suicide task. Leonidas's decision to remain with his rearguard was made in this moment of crisis, a calculated choice to buy time for the rest of Greece. While Thermopylae holds an honored place in military history, its strategic importance has sometimes been overstated. It was a crucial delaying action, but not the decisive blow against the Persian invasion. That came later, at the naval battle of Salamis and the land battle at Plataea the following year. These engagements, building on the sacrifice at Thermopylae, ultimately turned the tide and secured Greek independence. The story of the 300, stripped of its mythical embellishments, remains an extraordinary tale of courage and sacrifice. A small force of highly trained soldiers, using ideal terrain and superior tactics, managed to hold off a much larger army for 3 days. Their stand bought crucial time for the rest of Greece and inspired a nation to ultimate victory. In separating fact from fiction, we don't diminish the legend of the 300. We enrich it. We see not supermen, but real human beings choosing to stand against overwhelming odds. We see not a single city-state, but a coalition of Greeks setting aside their differences in the face of extinction. We see not an inevitable suicide mission, but a dynamic situation where brave men made fateful choices. The true story of Thermopylae, with all its complexity and humanity, continues to resonate through the ages. It reminds us that heroism isn't about being superhuman, but about ordinary people rising to extraordinary challenges. In the end, the reality of the 300 Spartans is every bit as inspiring as the myth. The legacy of the 300 and their influence on modern culture. The legend of the 300 Spartans has endured for over 2 millennia, leaving an indelible mark on Western culture. From ancient times to the modern day, their story has been retold, reimagined, and repurposed countless times. In the ancient world, the tale of Thermopylae quickly became a cornerstone of Greek identity. It embodied the ideals of civic duty, martial prowess, and sacrifice for the greater good. The Spartan stand was seen as a defining moment in the struggle between Greek freedom and Persian despotism. This narrative carried forward into the Roman period and beyond. Renaissance humanists rediscovered the ancient accounts of the battle, and it became a popular subject in art and literature. The 300 Spartans were held up as exemplars of virtue and courage in the face of tyranny. In the modern era, The story has found new life in various forms of media. Frank Miller's graphic novel 300 and the subsequent film adaptation brought the tale to a new generation, albeit in a highly stylized form. While historically inaccurate in many respects, these modern retellings captured the spirit of the ancient legend and its enduring appeal. The battle has also had a significant impact on military thinking. Thermopylae is still studied in military academies as an example of the force-multiplying effects of terrain and the power of superior training and equipment. The idea of a small, elite force standing against overwhelming odds has become a recurrent theme in military history and popular culture alike. In politics and rhetoric, Thermopylae is often invoked as a metaphor for courageous last stands against tyranny. During World War II, both Allied and Axis powers used the story for propaganda purposes, each casting themselves in the role of the brave Spartans. The legacy of the 300 extends even into the realm of physical culture. The Spartan ethos of physical toughness and mental resilience has inspired countless fitness regimes and endurance challenges. The very word Spartan has become synonymous with self-discipline and austere living. Perhaps most profoundly, the tale of the 300 continues to shape our understanding of heroism and sacrifice. In a world often driven by self-interest, the Spartans' willingness to lay down their lives for their comrades and their city-state remains a powerful ideal. In all these ways, the 300 Spartans live on. Their physical bodies fell at Thermopylae, but their legend has achieved a kind of immortality. They remind us that, in the words of the poet Simonides, the fate of the fallen is glorious. Lessons from Thermopylae for today's world. As we conclude our journey through the legend and reality of the 300 Spartans, we must ask ourselves, what relevance does this ancient battle hold for us today? In a world so different from that of Leonidas and his men, what lessons can we draw from their sacrifice at Thermopylae? First and foremost, Thermopylae teaches us about the power of preparation and discipline. The Spartans didn't become legendary warriors overnight. Their prowess was the result of lifelong training, unwavering discipline, and a societal commitment to martial excellence. In our own lives, whether in our careers, our personal goals, or our communities, we can embrace this ethos of continuous improvement and dedicated preparation. The battle also demonstrates the importance of using our strengths strategically. The Greeks didn't try to match the Persians in numbers. Instead, they chose a battlefield that negated the enemy's numerical advantage and played to their own strengths. In facing our own challenges, we too can look for ways to leverage our unique abilities and circumstances, rather than trying to compete on unfavorable terms. Thermopylae reminds us of the power of unity in the face of overwhelming odds. The Greeks, often fractious and competitive with each other, came together when faced with an existential threat. In our increasingly divided world, this serves as a powerful reminder of what can be achieved when we set aside our differences and work towards a common goal. The stand of the 300 also speaks to the enduring impact of symbolic actions. While not militarily decisive on its own, the sacrifice at Thermopylae inspired all of Greece and has continued to inspire people for millennia. It teaches us that sometimes standing up for what we believe in is important, not just for the immediate outcome, but for the message it sends and the inspiration it provides to others. There's also a lesson here about the nature of heroism. The Spartans at Thermopylae weren't superhumans. They were ordinary men who chose to do an extraordinary thing. This reminds us that heroism isn't about being exceptional, but about stepping up when circumstances demand it. The Battle of Thermopylae also provides a stark reminder about the cost of freedom and the fragility of civilization. The Greeks fought not just for their lives, but for their way of life, their laws, and their independence. In our modern world, where such things can often be taken for granted, the sacrifice of the 300 reminds us of the price that sometimes must be paid to preserve our values and freedoms. Lastly, Thermopylae teaches us about the power of a well-told story. The tale of the 300 Spartans has endured for over 2,500 years, shaping cultural narratives and inspiring countless individuals. It reminds us of the importance of how we frame our experiences and challenges, and the long-lasting impact our stories can have. As we face our own metaphorical thermopylaes, be they personal challenges, societal issues, or global crises, we can draw strength and wisdom from those ancient warriors. We can embrace their discipline, emulate their strategic thinking, strive for unity in the face of adversity, stand up for our beliefs, recognize the hero within each of us, appreciate the value of our freedoms, and harness the power of our own narratives. The 300 Spartans may belong to ancient history, but their legacy is alive in every courageous stand against overwhelming odds, in every sacrifice for a greater good, and in every person who chooses duty and honor over personal safety. As long as we continue to face challenges that test our resolve and our values, the spirit of Thermopylae will endure. In closing, let us remember that the true power of the story of the 300 lies not just in their martial prowess or their tragic fate, but in the choice they made. They chose to stand when they could have fled, to fight when they could have submitted. In our own lives, we may not be called to make such dramatic choices, but we are constantly faced with smaller decisions that test our courage, our integrity, and our commitment to our values. The next time you're faced with a difficult choice, remember the 300. Remember that our actions, no matter how small they may seem, can have ripple effects that extend far beyond our immediate circumstances. And remember that true heroism lies not in being extraordinary, but in ordinary people choosing to do extraordinary things. As we reflect on the courage of the Spartans, it's important to also understand their adversaries, the Persians. The Persian Empire, under leaders like Darius and Xerxes, was a vast and sophisticated civilization. Known for their tolerance and innovative administration, the Persians built one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. To delve deeper into the fascinating history of the Persian Empire and to understand the context of their conflicts with Greece, be sure to check out our detailed video on the Persian Empire on channel Odyssey of Humanity. The 300 Spartans fell at Thermopylae, but their spirit lives on. It lives on in every person who chooses to stand up for what's right, who sacrifices for the greater good, who faces adversity with courage and discipline. It lives on in you. How will you honor their legacy? If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment with your thoughts and ideas for future videos. Your support is crucial for us to continue creating high-quality content. If you can and are interested, please make a donation to help us keep bringing these historical stories to life. Thank you for watching, and let's continue exploring the depths of history together.